A lot of people may look at following your husband and giving up your career and everything you know to move to France, to a different country. People may think that that would be the worst case scenario. You give up so much, right? You sacrifice everything. There's loneliness, there's too much leisure time. There's so much joy and peace found in that extra time. When you have time, you can really start enjoying life. And for me, that's what I've discovered, is that there is so much joy in the simple joys. There is so much beauty in the mundane, and it is when I had time to notice life that all of the simple joys became apparent to me. Hello my friends, I hope you're having the most magical day. My name is Helena and I run the blog called Simple Joys. I left my career, my family, my friends, my photography business, everything I knew and loved, and I followed my husband to France, and I've never been happier. Despite the language barriers, yeah, it's been 2 years and I still don't really speak French. I know, it's embarrassing, but I moved to France 2 years ago. Don't really have a career here, can't work. I don't have a visa that allows me to work here in France. And I've never been happier. And as someone who used to be very achievement driven and ambitious and very career oriented before moving to France, you'd think I was crazy, right? That I would leave everything behind and just move to France with nothing. No career, no work visa, no knowing French, nothing. And I've never been happier. And I want to share what I've learned and the major life transformation and lessons that I've learned since moving to France and giving it all up to follow him here. Why I gave up my career and moved to France. But before I get into today's video, if you like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and let me know your thoughts in the comments below, what your thoughts are on my story. So we're gonna go into the first one. I have my notes here just to remind me. The first thing that moving to France without a work visa, without anything, not being able to have a career, not being able to work, living in France has reminded me what really matters in life. It's reminded me that work isn't everything, that your career isn't everything, that how much money you make isn't everything. Sure, it's good to make enough money to survive and to thrive, right? You want to be comfortable. Comfortable is good. My husband makes very little money. We can cover our rent, we can cover our groceries, we can have a little bit extra to travel, but that's it. Like, there's no extra funds. And living so frugally and so humbly has taught me how you really don't need money to be happy, because we don't have much money, we're not saving really, and we've never been happier. That true joy doesn't come from how much money you make, it doesn't come from how much career success you have or what your career, how your career's doing or anything. It doesn't even come from friendships, it doesn't even come from your family. It comes from your inner peace in that moment and how to remain consistent in your inner peace, no matter the peaks and valleys, the highs and lows that life and the circumstances will bring you. Living in France without a career, without being able to work, has made me realize how precious my life is and what really, really matters. And that it's money and career do not bring happiness. Your inner peace and your connection to yourself is what brings inner peace and gratitude, obviously, simple joys, right? Another thing that living in France has taught me was that the world is so big. The world is so big, and as an American, as someone who grew up surrounded by American media, American consumption, you know, consumerism, the billboards, the ads, the commercials, Instagram, right? Like, but when I left America and I moved to France and I moved to places that are just so different from my own, I learned how vast the world is and how everyone does not think the same way. Everyone might know that, you know, everyone has a different opinion, everyone thinks differently in different places, but it's not really until you travel and you go to these places that you really see how different life is in all these different parts of the world. And it was when I started traveling abroad when I was 21, and it was when I moved to France at 24 that I realized how grand and big the world is. It reminded me how humble and small I am, and how how insignificant I am. And that brings me to the next point. Living in France and moving to France has made me look at the world from a bird's eye perspective. I am constantly thinking big. I'm constantly zoomed out and looking at situations and circumstances and life from a very aerial perspective. And that has brought me so much inner peace. Because when you're in it, when you're in the thick of an emotion or in a circumstance and you're in the thick of it, it's so easy to get sidetracked and to feel stressed and to feel overwhelmed and to feel all these feelings. But when you can zoom out, when you can look at the big picture, there is so much peace that comes from that. And living in France has taught me that, because I've realized how big the world, how different cultures are, how people react differently, how the French are so different from Americans in the way they speak, in the way they react, in the way they process things. The bureaucratic red tape in France is ridiculous and insane and hilarious, and like, I have so much appreciation for it because it is so different from my own in America. And these differences between people and cultures and lifestyles, it's reminded me to take a step back and to look at the world from a bird's eye perspective. And when you look at the world in that way, a lot of joy and humility and gratitude stems from that. And it is something I encourage everyone to start thinking life from a big picture perspective. And France, the French culture has taught me that. The next thing that moving to France and following my husband here and leaving my career has taught me is I now have time to do things that I love. As a 20-something-year-old, I tried the 9-to-5 office jobs. I tried the full-time teacher jobs. I tried the hustling, lots of minimum wage, different working at boutiques type of thing. And I was so exhausted. I was so exhausted all the time that I never had time to do the things I really loved, which was photography. I never had time to creatively use my self-expression in a way that served me and made me feel more connected and fulfilled in my life. And it wasn't until I gave up all of that, including my career, including a salary, including money, including all of that, and followed my husband to a place that I didn't know or know the language or know anyone. And I now have time. Time is our most valuable resource. And it wasn't until I gave up everything and had all this extra time as an expat wife, as a lady of leisure, right? As a wife who follows her partner across the world and can't work, as a housewife, as a stay-at-home mom, or stay-at-home moms. You guys have a lot to do. You're very busy, so maybe that doesn't count. But I have all this time, and I appreciate life so much more when I have time. I just have more time to relish in the creativity, the things that I really love to do. And I've tried all these new hobbies and things that I've always wanted to, but I've never had the time. From my teenage years in high school, I was constantly go. I was constantly busy. I was constantly chasing after things, going to classes, finishing school, and then I'd rush to ballet, and then I'd rush to rehearsal, and then I would rush to the library to finish homework, and then I would study for the SATs, and then I would go home and I would wake up and I'd do it all over again. And it wasn't until I moved to France that I was like, oh my gosh, I can just play. I can just have fun. I can just actually enjoy now. Is this the time when I can actually relish and enjoy life and enjoy just all the things I can do? And I'm so grateful to that, because a lot of people may look at following your husband and giving up your career and everything you know to move to France, to a different country. People may think that that would be the worst case scenario. You give up so much, right? You sacrifice everything. There's loneliness, there's too much leisure time, right? But there's so much joy and peace found in that extra time. When you have time, you can really start enjoying life. And for me, that's what I've discovered, is that there is so much joy in the simple joys. There is so much beauty in the mundane, and it is when I had time to notice life that all of the simple joys became apparent to me. And now I'm always in this state of gratitude, because there is so much beauty all around us if only we have the time to stop and notice. And so often we're not. So often we're chasing things and we're hustling and we're busy that we're not stopping to smell the roses. A major lesson that I learned was to surrender, to trust that everything is gonna be okay, to trust that I am where I'm meant to be, because I can't see the finish line. For the first time in my life, I can't see the end result. I'm in the dark. I'm completely in the dark because I don't know where my life is going, right? I live in France and we're hoping to live here for a long time, and I can't work and I can't speak the language. There's a lot up in the air that I have no control over. And it's taught me to surrender my life to something greater, right? Like, it's taught me to have trust that I will be taken care of and I will be provided for, however that looks. And for me, that means, because I'm in the dark, that means I'm following one little breadcrumb at a time. I'm taking one little step every day and following the next breadcrumb, the next nudge, the next intuitive hit, the next instinctual pull every day to further my life, whether that's learning new skills, taking the time to improve on an old skill. It's taught me not only to surrender and trust that my life will be okay, and that there is a greater power that is taking care of me, and everything will work out. I've also learned to be diligent, to be dedicated in my pursuit of improvement. When you have all this extra time in your life as an expat wife, as a spouse who gives up their career to move abroad, you basically have to teach yourself to be diligent, to be dedicated to your pursuits every day. Because if you don't, it's very easy to get idle. It's very easy to become bored. It's very easy to become so comfortable that you end up doing really nothing. And while I am an advocate for doing nothing, for stillness, for finding more silence in life, to be more idle in life, I know it's a very hedonistic attitude, but I do advocate it because I think a lot of our Western world isn't doing that as much. When you are so bored, you have to teach yourself how to consistently motivate yourself to improve your life. And when I'm stuck at home and I'm not doing much, I have to be honest with myself. I have to ask myself, Helena, what did you do today to improve your life? What one thing did you do today that helped you learn a skill for the future, for when you do have a work visa and you have to work again? I have found that by trusting and surrendering my life over to the divine, to something else, to something bigger than me, that trust has really made me happier and made me feel more grateful with my life, because there is this underlying sense of gratitude that's kind of always beneath the surface with me. And I think that was a learned habit of noticing the simple joys of being grateful for where I am, but also trusting and surrendering in the universe that something is there for me on the other side and I can't see it and I'm in the dark. But to keep taking those little baby steps, follow those breadcrumbs every day, to have endurance, to be persistent with that, with following that calling. Another thing that living in France taught me was how precious my quality time with my partner is. Before I moved to France, I never had time with him. We were hustling from morning to night, and then I would see him for a few hours at night before we went to sleep. We'd have dinner and go to sleep. And then I wouldn't see him maybe till the weekend, but even on the weekend I was working because I had a photography business and I had to hustle and I had to grind and I couldn't stop. And now we have so much time together. I see him all the time, and partly because in France the working hours are way less. So, in the United States you have 40 hours a week, possibly more, but in France it's more like, 15 hours a week is like the standard. Or if you're working a university professor job, it's, it can range from 8 hours a week to 15 hours a week. And he gets paid a full salary, and his full salary covers everything for us. So we're comfortable and we're happy and we're fine, but we have time. We have time to spend together. We have time to play. And before that, we didn't have time. And I'm so grateful for France, for the working conditions and the way they treat their workers, and the way of life. The lifestyle is so much better than in America. And I didn't know that before coming here. And now that I'm here, I'm in awe. And honestly, I never want to go back. I never want to go back to America, because the working conditions, the lifestyle, the way of life is so much easier, because The government takes care of us. And that is our final point, my friends. Giving up my career and following my husband to France was the best thing I ever did because I'm not stressed anymore. Because the government in France is socialist, right? They cover our health insurance. Our healthcare is pretty much covered. We do have to pay a little bit every time we go visit the doctor or the dentist or the gyno or whatever, but it's pretty much the vast majority of it is always covered. And it's like that for everyone. And the colleges are free. And there are so many advantages that the French government provides. And the government really supports you. It's a very supportive system. People take care of one another. This socialist government really changed my life because, to be honest, before I moved to France, I was a conservative Democrat. But I was conservative in many of my political beliefs. And it wasn't until I moved to France that I completely changed my political party. Like, I'm a socialist, hardcore. And it wasn't until living in France that I realized how beneficial a socialist government works, because I've seen, like, no one in France is really stressed. Sure, we have a lot of strikes and whatnot, so that's kind of annoying. But in general, everyone's supported, and because there's so much government support, people aren't stressed here. People, have a full month in August to go on vacation with their family, and no one questions it. If you just leave for the whole month of August, no one questions it. It's totally fine and expected because the whole city shuts down. Like here in Strasbourg, everything is pretty much closed in August. Like cafes are shut down, restaurants are shut down for the whole month, shops are shut down for the whole month. And the reason is because many people, the vast majority of French people, go for a holiday for an entire month in August with their family to spend quality time with them. And that is so beautiful. And like Sundays are day of rest. Nothing is open on Sundays. Nothing. Maybe the boulangerie for like 4 hours in the morning, but then it's closed. And that is so beautiful. There is so much peace and joy that comes from having a day of rest, right? Day of rest, and no one does anything, and except for relaxing with your family and being idle and having a peaceful day, right? That is just so beautiful. And all of this to say, moving to France was the best thing I ever did. It was the best choice I ever did, and I'm so glad that I followed my gut that day on my birthday back in 2017. And I told my then boyfriend, I said, I want to leave the United States. And I don't know where the thought came from. I don't know where that idea just plopped in my mind, but it did. And I'm so glad I followed it. And I plucked up the courage and the nerve to start saving up every money, a little bit every month, put it in a jar, and to encourage him to apply to jobs, because we've been here for 2 years and honestly, we don't ever want to leave. Giving up my career and moving to France was the best thing I ever did, and I've never been less stressed, more happy. I've never loved life more. I've never noticed the simple joys more than I do now. I've never had more gratitude in my heart. And a lot of people may use the argument of, well, you're just saying that because you don't have bills to pay, you don't have rent to pay. Yeah, that's so true. Absolutely. I don't have to pay rent. Are you kidding? Of course I'm grateful. Psh. He makes so little money, and yet we're comfortable. We don't need more. And that's a great lesson that I've learned personally in slow living, in how to be grateful for a slow lifestyle, how to have gratitude in the present moment for the simple things. And we live a very humble, frugal life, but we've never been happier. In fact, I would say we're probably more happy than a lot of people who do make a lot of money and are working like dogs. If you are also a partner, or you're just someone that wants to follow your spouse, follow your partner, or just move abroad to a different country like France, I so encourage you to do it and to be brave and start saving, even if it's just a little bit every month. That's what I did. I just put a little bit of money every month in the bank account and do everything you can to live the life you always dreamed of. And that it's possible and it's there. And you've got to follow those gut instincts and those feelings in the pit of your stomach and follow them, because they don't lie. They are speaking inner universal truth to you. So you got to act on those nudges, those gut feelings from your stomach, your chest, whatever. You feel them, you know them. And I knew then, and I still know now, France is where I'm meant to be for the foreseeable future. And I hope that my journey and my story of this and what it's taught me inspires or encourages you to change up your life. If you're in a place where you are miserable or you have a feeling like a calling, like something's wrong, something's missing, I encourage you to be courageous and go for it. If you like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up, comment below. I'd love to hear from you what your thoughts are on this. Are you moving to France? Have you thought about moving to France? Have you thought about giving up your career to start a new life somewhere else and have a slow lifestyle? I'd love to hear from you. I hope this video encourages you at all. And if you like this video and you want to see more videos of my life in France, my life learning slow living and how to be more still and how to be more grateful, please be sure to subscribe. Have a magical day, my friends, and I will see you next Thursday here on The Simple Joys.